The United Arab Emirates has requested a U.S. financial backstop, effectively a lifeline to support its economy. Clearly, Iran managed to inflict much more damage than reports indicate, and the U.A.E. is now bracing for an economic downturn as its energy infrastructure has been destroyed, severely damaged, and with more escalation on the horizon, it is clear that the worst may be yet to come. The United Arab Emirates is quietly preparing for a financial contingency as the war with Iran drags on, signaling that the conflict is not just military for the GCC states, it has vast economic consequences for those regional actors that have become effectively co-belligerents. According to a report published by the Wall Street Journal, Emirati officials have begun discussions with the United States about a potential currency swap line, which is a financial mechanism that is typically reserved for times of severe market stress. This type of an arrangement would allow the U.A.E. to access U.S. dollars very quickly and at a much lower cost, effectively serving as a financial lifeline if conditions continue to deteriorate. Now, let me explain very quickly, and I'm sure many of us are not sure what a currency swap line is. So, a currency swap line is a critical tool in the global financial system, and the U.S. dollar still remains dominant in the system despite the fact that its role is declining. So during crises, demand for dollars surges as investors seek safety. And this is one of the reasons why the US dollar actually strengthened after the United States and Israel began their illegal and unprovoked war against Iran. Without sufficient access to dollar liquidity, countries can face currency instability, they can face capital flight and broader financial disruptions. So by raising the possibility of such an arrangement, it is clear that the U.A.E. is now openly signaling that a prolonged war, which appears to be on the table as we speak, could strain its financial system and erode global confidence in its economic stability. In other words, the U.A.E. would not have begun these discussions if it believed that it could withstand a return to war. It goes without saying that the urgency behind these discussions stems from the direct and also indirect impacts of the war. Iranian airstrikes have already damaged parts of the U.A.E.'s oil and LNG infrastructure, while the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has disrupted oil shipments and caused Iran to close it again. As I'm sure all of us know by now very well, the Strait of Hormuz choke point is one of the most critical energy transit routes in the entire world. Its closure has actually significantly reduced the U.A.E.'s ability to export oil, and oil is a key source of dollar revenue for the U.A.E. So as a result of that, the country faces mounting pressure on both its fiscal position as well as its external accounts. When we discuss these recent developments and their impact on the Gulf states, particularly on the U.A.E. in this instance, it is very important to note that they threaten more than just short-term economic performance. The U.A.E. has made a reputation as a secure global financial hub. It used to attract capital from around the world. Wealthy individuals, global corporations, all flocked to the U.A.E. But now the U.A.E. is losing those privileges. It's no longer a safe haven, and it's no longer a safe hub for investments because it has become very clear, I would say it has become crystal clear, that the United States and Israel, its ally, are not interested in peace. They are after dominance, they're after control of resources, and also after war, as long as war helps them achieve their goals. So for the U.A.E. and other Gulf states, a prolonged war depletes foreign reserves, discourages investments, and introduces uncertainty, extreme uncertainty, into what has long been viewed as a predictable environment. Once investor confidence begins to weaken, it can be very difficult, if not outright impossible, to restore the confidence. And so because of that loss of confidence, what we have as a result is a deeper impact on the regional economy and on the individual economies of these actors. years. Despite these concerns, however, it remains to be very unclear if Washington will actually approve such a financial arrangement. The Federal Reserve typically extends swap lines only to major economies or in situations where financial instability abroad could actually spill over into the United States system. Now, we also know that the United States may choose to make exceptions. For example, Javier Milei of Argentina received a swap line just days before the elections. And so that, of course, gives us an idea that Washington can and does make exceptions in certain situations. So while the U.A.E. is a significant financial center, it is a U.S. ally, it does not currently belong to a very small group of countries with standing swap agreements with the United States. So Washington may not approve it, or it may approve the swap line and do so with certain concessions from the U.A.E., which I'm sure will be tied into the military realm of the war in one way or another. Now, by the way, the United States has reportedly suspended all funding and security coordination with the Iraqi government and has halted dollar shipments to Iraq's central banking system. And this is according to Saudi channel Al Hadath. Iraq's economy is 90% dependent on its oil revenue that is paid in dollars, and it's paid into a Federal Reserve account in New York City. I'm sure many of you were not aware of this. The United States actually threatened, this was back in January of 2026, the United States threatened to suspend engagement with Iraq's government if any of the 58 pro-Iranian MPs were included in the cabinet. So the United States foreign policy has not really been about democracy, as you can see. I know many of us still believe that. Cutting dollar access actually means that the Iraqi government cannot operate and the state effectively grinds to a halt. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that allows the United States to have tremendous leverage over foreign states. And the US dollar is certainly one of these handy tools that Washington loves to use. Now, the geopolitical dimension is further complicated by the situation on the ground right now. Some Emirati officials reportedly believe that President Trump's decision to go to war to benefit Israel has actually drawn the U.A.E. into the war, and it has already had far-reaching economic consequences on the country. So there are definitely multiple opinions within the U.A.E., and some of them are very much contrary to what the United States and Israel would probably like to hear. Now, at the same time, what's interesting is that the U.A.E. is not relying solely on the United States. It has already established a roughly $5 billion currency swap line with Bahrain, from what I read. However, of course, such measures may prove insufficient if the conflict intensifies and if it persists for an extended period of time, particularly given the scale of potential disruptions to energy flows in the event of the ceasefire being not extended. But even in the event of a ceasefire extension, which does appear to be highly unlikely, recovery is expected to be very, very slow. Regional officials have warned that logistical disruptions, especially in tanker scheduling and shipping, could continue for months, if not for over a year. And so that suggests that the economic fallout from the conflict will linger well beyond the end of active hostilities and will likely affect not only the U.A.E., but the broader Gulf region. Taken together, these developments highlight a critical shift. A conflict that began with military escalation is now evolving into a financial challenge with global implications, with truly global implications. In conclusion, the U.A.E.'s outreach for a U.S. financial backstop underscores how rapidly this conflict is spilling into the global economic domain. What began as a regional military escalation is now testing the resilience of one of the world's most prominent financial hubs, and the mere discussion of a currency swap line, that lifeline, signals deep concerns about liquidity, about investor confidence, and long-term stability of the U.A.E. and multiple regional players. The Gulf's economic model is under pressure. It's clear to see, and Iran has clearly succeeded in showing that it will remain the case as long as the GCC states are co-belligerents. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this quick update was interesting. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you over on my Substack, Patreon, and back here on YouTube tomorrow. Take care.